Hi there, this is Tuesday the 27th of April 2021 and this is our last week focusing on the Resurrected Christ. We've been focusing our hearts and minds on Jesus, the Resurrected Christ, all the way through the month of April, and it's been fantastic to do so. And this is the last of the three visions which John had in the book of Revelation of Jesus as the Resurrected Christ. And it comes from chapter 19, where Jesus rides out of heaven on a white horse, the faithful and true, leading the armies of heaven into battle to defeat his enemies. I don't know if you've got any enemies in your life. It's maybe not something we think about so much in one sense these days. But I remember reading a book when I was younger called This Present Darkness by a chap called Frank Peretti. He's a Christian guy and he wrote this book, and it was a novel which he wrote all about a town in America that was beset by enemies, but these were invisible enemies. These were spiritual enemies. It talked about the work of the devil and of his demons and evil spirits and how they were influencing this town in a very negative way. I don't know whether we ever think about life like that, whether we think about the fact that there is a spiritual realm, that there is more than we can see at present, and there are angels and there are demons, and God's Spirit is working in the spiritual realm, and God's enemy, the devil, he is working in the spiritual realm as well. And when John saw this revelation of Jesus riding on the white horse, riding out to meet his enemies, he says this about his enemies: "Then I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against the rider on the horse," which is Jesus, "and his army, which are all the Christians, his saints. But the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who had performed the miraculous signs on his behalf." The Bible talks about this beast in Revelation chapter 13, a few chapters earlier. Some people think it might be a person, or perhaps it's a nation or a group of nations, but it's certainly people who are gathered together against Jesus, who want to wage war against Jesus, against his kingdom and against his people. And then it talks about a false prophet. This is probably the second of the beasts in Revelation 13, the beast that comes out of the sea. Very probably this is a person who calls people to worship not God, but to worship God's enemies, to worship the beast, to worship false religion and everything that goes with it. And of course, many of the people of the earth are deceived by this, and they also become God's enemies. You know, God's word is very clear that if we are not his friends, then we are his enemies. There is no middle ground. We are either for him or we are against him. And the invitation is for every person to be a friend of Jesus. He has made the way possible by his death and resurrection. But we have to make that choice to be his friend. Otherwise, we stand as his enemy, and one day we will be judged for that. So there are enemies of Jesus Christ in this world today, but ultimately, he is the victor, and he will defeat his enemies, and he will reign and rule for all time and all eternity. Praise his name. Speak to you again tomorrow.